All right, folks. Lots of problems with Facebook here this morning, so we've got the camera and the mic going, and we should be live. Many of you will probably see this on a replay because for some reason I wasn't allowed to invite folks from the group. It kept giving me an error message on it. So anyway, I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but we will still load this up in the group, and I can see that a few people are on here live, so that's good. Let me say hello in the comments, and let me know that you're with me, and we'll go ahead and jump in. So the first thing is this. Let's recap just a little bit. What we're doing is we're going through 21 segments of real estate, key topics of real estate. And we've covered everything up to now, which is, I believe, we're week 14 out of 21 weeks. We've covered what the overall strategy should be so that you could essentially buy any house from any seller in any market, not using any of your own money or any of your own credit. We've covered the deal structures that fall underneath that strategy so that you have all kinds of tactics and alternatives to offer the seller. We've covered some of the nuances that occur depending on what structure you use and the variability from deal to deal. We've covered why I think it's a great idea to get a realtor license and how that can help you, not hurt you as an investor, much more helpful than hurtful. We've covered what script you use, whether you're a realtor, an investor, realtor, how do you position yourself in the approach with the seller so that you can demonstrate your character and demonstrate your competency, which is an excellent combination as far as getting somebody to be willing to work with you in business. And we've also covered how do you delegate out to executive assistants or virtual assistants so that you come into the game when things are pretty much pre-qualified and you simply have to get on the phone and make decisions. And we also covered what your posture should be. How do you carry yourself? Are you begging and pleading people to do deals with you? Or are you cool, calm, collected, no big deal, doesn't really matter, here's what we do, here's how I can make this happen, which tends to be much more attractive. From there, we went into a 4-week series of handling the various objections that come up from sellers. And there's 30 objections that cover the spectrum of different questions, concerns, objections that sellers will have. I don't think I've heard a new one to add to that 30 in over a decade. In fact, most of those 30 only come up if you make them come up by over-talking, over-explaining, trying to teach a seminar to the seller. So there's a way that you carry yourself, there's a way that you handle things, and there's a way that you answer the different questions that come up optimally. We went through that over 4 weeks. I've left all of these events up in the group so you can go back and check these out and catch yourself up. I think I have them up on YouTube as well. The YouTube channel is something like, maybe you enter my name, Joel Sangerman, or maybe it's Terms Daddy. I actually don't remember. I could put the link in here. If you can't find the YouTube channel, let me know and I'll throw the link in the comments. So once you've got the strategy and the deal structures down, and then you've got the script down as far as your approach, and then you've got the oral back and forth dialogue with the seller, what's next? Well, what's next is you have to take whatever the output is of that discussion and put it to paper. You've got to put it in some kind of an agreement. And that's important because it memorializes the transaction and directs the professionals, title companies and attorneys, to close in accordance with the agreement that we have with the seller. So last week we covered when you buy property, when you get the deed to a property or have the right to buy the property, we use a purchase and sale agreement. Now, what happens frequently getting into the substance of this week's topic, which is using lease purchase agreements, and how a lot of what I've seen out there is frankly taught in a suboptimal way. And I'm going to shore that up for y'all. You can decide if you want to make more money or less. I would imagine you'd want to make more, or at least have a shot on goal to make more. So we're going to do things the right way. But when you use a lease purchase agreement, in my opinion, is when you cannot get the seller to be willing to give up the ownership of the house ahead of being paid in full. Some people are just kinky about that. They don't want to accept monthly payments without having ownership, meaning they would rent it, but they won't take installment payments against the sale or against the price of the house. And that's perfectly fine. We just let the seller know that's cool. If that is that the only thing that's holding you back? And if they say yes, then we can tell them, well, what we'll do is we'll simply make you a monthly payment. You'll retain ownership. So we'll essentially rent the property from you. And you just have to give us an option to buy the property during the term of our lease. You're not going to get the house back. That's why I'd rather you just sell it to me now, because it makes it easier for me to get you cashed out. But just go ahead and lease it to us. Give us an option to buy it during the term of the lease. And you'll be able to get the better price that we've talked about. And I'll begin making payments to you whenever we're ready. By the way, you don't have to be a landlord in leasing it to me. There's no maintenance, no repairs. You do warranty things for 30 days. You can't sell me a lemon, right? But I don't think you're planning on doing that anyway. But after that, maintenance and repairs are my responsibility because, like I mentioned, we intend on owning the property and buying it from you. But if you're uncomfortable giving up the deed until you're paid in full, we'll just do it under this structure. I'll make you monthly payments via a lease, and then you give me a purchase option during the term of the lease. Fair enough? And you can get those deals signed up. You can easily get those deals signed up when somebody has offered their house for rent. Right? If it's not even a seller really, somebody who's said, I haven't been able to sell this house. Sometimes it's a bona fide investor or landlord who's not going to, give you the option. Sometimes it's a property management company. Sometimes it's realtors who are listing these houses for rent. But when it's a house that's just listed for rent from the homeowner, very frequently, more often than not, they're only renting it because they need the debt relief right now. They need the monthly payments to come in right now. They can't wait for a sale to occur. It's really not ready for a sale. Maybe they were trying to sell it and couldn't sell it, but they've now offered it for rent. Well, guess what? If somebody's offered their house for rent, we're already past the hardest part of the game, of the acquisition game, which is getting the seller to agree to take monthly payments for a period of time until we pay them off in full. So the conversation is really simple. Hey, I see you have the house for rent, and I would definitely rent this from you. I just have one condition, and you'll love me as a renter because I'm going to guarantee maintenance repairs on this. You're not going to have to do any landlording other than the collecting, which you're not even going to have to do because I'm going to have you paid like clockwork out of escrow. But the only thing that I require is you got to give me a chance to buy this property during the term of the lease. Are you willing to sell it during the term of the lease? And at least a third of the folks will say something like, well, I was trying to sell it, and that's why I ended up renting it. Now, remember, nobody's going to force you into exercising your option in 6 months. If they put the house up for lease, they were planning on at least a year. What are they going to do? Run it for a year and not let somebody renew it? Very few people are going to move into a house and then not have the ability to relet it at the end of the year. So these are generally thought of as, well, I'll rent it until my renter wants to leave, which is great for us. Because it allows us to take advantage of the strategy that we're going to deploy today. So you can go after for rent by owners and make a fortune with this strategy. So I'm going to give you a high-level overview of how we structure these deals. And what I want to point out is a couple of things. So first, it is not a good idea for me in a static fashion like this where we don't have interaction to just give you the contract that I've had prepared over, and it has evolved over 30 years from various attorneys who have added this clause and edited this. And, it's basically a work of art at this point. And it requires context, and it requires some coaching, and it requires more than a half hour discussion. But that agreement is rock solid. And that's an agreement that I go through in very specific, granular detail with my clients, the clients who join my mastermind. Don't take everyone in the mastermind, but I'm always willing to help to hold a call, a Zoom call with you. We can discover what the best strategy for you is, whether it's with me or not. And if you do come into the program, then I can, obviously you get the contracts, and I help you, get those contracts signed, sealed, delivered, closed, and get paid. That's the value of having a coach. That's the value of GPS level guidance versus me giving you a roadmap, which is what this equates to. But I know some of you won't do that. Maybe it's a financial thing or something along those lines, despite the fact that it's a pathetic amount of money that we charge for the coaching relative to what you can make in real estate. And everybody should be able to come up, with a few $1,000s, right? I mean, look at what we spend our money on. But I don't want to turn this into a pitch for that. What I do want to recommend is an alternative. If you aren't going to get on a discovery call with me, if you aren't going to get coaching, then you need an alternative. And this serves as an alternative from an education standpoint, but there's another alternative that I think is phenomenal. Many of you know that I was personally mentored by Ron LeGrand, going all the way back to the 90s, before him, Carlton Sheets. In fact, I got a copy of the infomercial. I'm actually on this infomercial. I'm going to probably put this in the group. I'm going to, oops, what did I just do? Did I just lose everybody? No. I'm on a couple of the Carlton Sheets programs from going back in the day, so I might go ahead and post those in the Facebook group. But unfortunately, Carlton's no longer with us. I think he died, was it May of last year? Maybe it was a year and a half ago. I'm not sure. But anyway, great guy. And so is Ron LeGrand. And really, for folks who aren't going to get into mentoring and aren't going to get into coaching, one of the best values you can get in real estate is what's called Ron's Gold Club. And I'll put a link in here for that. I think I put it on the, shoot, I should have had it handy for us. I'll put it in here later. I'll put a link into it later. I feel like I should do it now, but it might take me a second to grab it. Actually, it probably won't. Let me just grab this link real quick and post it in here for you while I talk to it, because in his Gold Club, he has some what they call boilerplate agreements. You're still going to need to run agreements by your attorney and make sure it's compliant. I mean, it's going to be compliant, but there might be some things that they want to add or possibly adapt for deals in a particular municipality. Oh, shoot, I'm trying to copy this so I can send you this link. And doggone it, let me get this. There we go. So let me come in here and post this in the comments, and I'll explain further. I'm not really good at multitasking. Bang. Okay, so this link I just popped in there. I have a relationship with Ron. I don't care if you use this link or not. I'm just trying to make it available. It is. I do. If you do sign up, I think I get like $20 or something like that a month or whatever for how long you stay in there. So, yes, I would make money if you use that link, but don't use the link if you don't want to. It doesn't matter to me, really. The point is, I want to give you an alternative here, and that is a really good alternative because there's all kinds of forms and agreements in there that are templates. You're not going to get the coaching and counseling to really guide you to go through it, although there are some static videos where he shows you how to do it, and that'll serve as value as well. Or you could come into this group and ask, hey, how do I fill this out or that, and I'll try to help from afar that way. But there's just so much good information in there. He's such a good teacher, and I think it's a really good value. Of course, if you're going to step up to mentoring and coaching, if you're going to get it from Ron directly, I believe it's about $25,000 a day, something like that. Well worth it if you're scaling your business. And then they have a mentoring program too, where some of his students will teach you for like a half hour a week for 6 months and help you out. But It is quite a bit more expensive than what I charge. I don't take everybody, and I charge little for actually it's for a profit motive, but not to drive coaching revenue. I charge very little in the coaching. I interview you. I determine if we're a good fit, if we like each other, and then the whole point is I know I can get you good at this. I can get just about anybody that I take into the program making money at this if they'll go out and implement. It happens at a different pace because people have different things going on in their lives. But my whole mojo, my whole game plan is it creates deal flow for me later where you come across bigger things. It could be, a big land deal, a big residential development deal, could be a commercial deal, could be a multi, storage facility type deal that you come across and you feel uncomfortable closing on it yourself and you want a joint venture. Maybe you need financing help and we JV on those with a 50-50 split. No requirement to do that for people who come into my coaching. But a lot of people feel that making 50% of something big is better than 100% of nothing, and it allows me to get a lot of deal flow by doing things like I'm doing now. Offering free coaching out here to identify prospects who really are serious about this, who really want to do this, and they come, to the extent that we get along on the call, they'll come into the coaching program, and then they're the beneficiary of a very low price and very good training, very intensive training, pretty much every day. There's never a day of folks' real estate life that they can't reach me for help on a deal, and it is me, not one of my acquisitionists. And that sets me up for deal flow later, which is actually more profitable than just selling coaching programs for 15, 20 grand, that kind of thing. So anyway, Ron's Gold Club, I think it's a great value and you'll learn a lot and it'll be highly complementary to the things that we're doing in here. So give that a look if you're not in it already. I forget what the cost is. I think last week I said it was like $99, but someone corrected me and said it's only $59 a month. I mean, for $59 a month, give it a try. I don't think there's a long-term contract or anything like that. Give that a try. Get as much as you can out of that. And, really consider getting some kind of a guidance because these deals pay very big money when you close them, and you don't have to do more than one of them to make back the amount that you invested in coaching, even if you go with a really expensive program that's not taught by somebody with as much experience as me. All right, but on these lease purchases, okay, the first point that I wanted to bring out is this. It looks like I'm going to go slightly long because of the problems at the beginning. So what was my point? My point is I'm going to tell you how to think about filling out the agreement, and you'll still be able to do it, with the lease purchase agreements that are in there. I'm not going to give you my lease purchase agreement in here, but you can certainly use the one that's in the Gold Club there if you join. What I will give you, though, is I'll give you an addendum that talks about the non-refundability of the down payment. So I can send you this PDF. This right here is an absolute Picasso. This is from one of the best lawyers in the country, in my opinion, and he didn't like the language. He liked the language. He just wanted to really, really button it up as far as protecting and making it very clear that the down payment that we receive from our buyer is non-refundable. So if you need that addendum, I'll go ahead and send that to you. Give it to your lawyer. He'll get awfully excited when he sees how good that language is, and you can add that to your agreements just to bolster them a little bit. All right, but here's the elements that I want you to know and think about when we do these agreements. First, the lease purchase agreement with a seller is a combined agreement. It's a lease with an option to buy, and we title that as a lease purchase agreement so that they are juxtaposed. So it's clear that we have an equitable interest in this property. Next week, when I talk to you about installing our tenant buyer, who we lease option the property to as well, we're going to keep the lease separate and the purchase option separate for reasons I'll get into next week. Now, the most important takeaway from today and where people go wrong is in how they price the lease option. So let's go back to the little role play that I was doing at the beginning of the meeting here, which is you're talking to the seller and you've had the conversation. They're like, yeah, I don't want to give up ownership. I got a loan on this, and I'm uncomfortable with giving you ownership of this while my name stays on the loan. I'm not feeling that. Okay, well, what we can do then, if that's the only issue, is we'll lease it from you. You retain ownership. We'll lease the property from you, and you just give us an option to buy it during the term of the lease. Will you do that? Well, yeah, that sounds a lot better. All right, well, let's talk about the price. Now, you said that you had a loan on it. You said so let's just theoretical example, $300,000 value for the house, okay? Let's say the seller is like, they want $300,000 for it, and the seller owes $250 on it. Okay, so if we agree on a price of $300,000, follow me now because this is going to be tricky. You might have to come back and listen to this. If we agree on a price of $300,000 with the seller, and the seller owes $250,000 on the mortgage, how much equity does the seller have? $50,000. 300 minus 250 is 50. So you say to the seller, okay, so you're looking to get $50,000 cash to mortgage on this. You're looking to get $50,000 out of this, all of your equity, not dialed back by commissions and realtor commissions and discounts and things, but you're looking to get 50 grand because you want to get 300 and the property has a $250,000 loan that it needs to be paid off. So if you got 50, you'd be happy, right? They're going to agree to that. So that means when you price your lease option, your lease purchase agreement, you do not put $300,000 in the agreement as the price. What? What did he just say? Let me rewind that. You do not put $300,000 as the price. The price is, the option price is, when I exercise my option, I'm going to pay off the mortgage and give you your 50 grand. Okay? And most of the time, they will agree to that. Now, why do I make it slightly more complex like that? Here's why. I'm going to try to show you on this clipboard here, okay? So, if the price is $300,000 and 250 is owed, there's $50,000 going to the seller, right? That's what they expect. Everybody with me? Now, let's look at what happens. If you have that thing leased for 3 years and you have a 3-year option to buy that house, and you put $300,000 as the price, I'll just put $300,000 as the price, what Joel said is too complicated. You just cost yourself about 20 grand. Why? Because when that loan, when you go to close over here, that loan of 250 after 3 years is only going to be 230. So when the seller gets the 300 at the close, 230 goes to the bank and the seller gets the remainder, which is 70 grand. They only wanted 50. Why'd you give them an extra 20? That 20 goes to the wrong bank account, doesn't it? So you do it my way. I'm going to pay you $50,000 cash to mortgage. We'll pay your mortgage off and give you 50 grand. That's going to be the price. The price is we, pay off your mortgage and give you 50 grand. So when you do that, 3 years later, you're effectively buying the house for 280 because the mortgage is only 230 and you're going to give the seller the 50 grand you agreed to. So the price is 280. Okay? That is a critical feature, and I've had many students thank me a couple years later, thank me in ways that include doing backflips down the hallway of glee because they got an extra 20 or 30 grand out of their property. It's really important. Now, having said that, you will get the occasional seller that will say, I don't like the way you put that price in there. It's too confusing to me. Well, I put it like that because I'm getting the benefit of the debt pay down during the time that I control the house. Remember, I'm guaranteeing maintenance, repairs. We're only doing this lease because you didn't want to give me ownership of the house until the loan was paid off. So we're going to pay off the loan and we're going to give you your 50 grand. Cool? Yeah, but it's all complicated. Just put the 300. I'm much more comfortable with that. If you have to do that, then we'll put the 300 in as the price against what I just told you, but we have another clause in the agreement under the rental agreement portion of the agreement that says that we, the buyer, get the benefit. Well, it doesn't say it like that. It says that an amount equal to the principal reduction of the loan, of the underlying loan, is applied against the purchase price at the time of close. Okay, so we check that box and it effectively creates the same situation. And if the seller asks, you just explain to them that, yeah, we're going to pay the rent. You keep all of that rent. You're probably going to pay your loan off with that, make the monthly payments on it. But we get the benefit of the amortization that we're creating for you, not the amortization of the debt pay down that we're creating for you over the time that we're working the house and getting our buyer qualified to get everybody cashed out. Fair enough? That's the way you do that. Now, if there's no loan on it and it's a free and clear property, then you're just going to want to negotiate some portion of your rent payment going towards the price, which effectively accomplishes the same thing. All right, so that's the real key. If you don't get that, ask questions or play this back a few times. And I'm just looking to see, is there anything else I wanted to share with you here? Yeah, one other thing. Sometimes you're going to get a deal with a seller on a lease purchase where you're uncomfortable signing up for the payments that you have to make to that seller ahead of getting your lease option buyer set and installed. So I like to put a section in the agreement that states, and this will be in Ron's form too if you go that route. If you come in with me, you'll just get the thing that I use and then we'll go through it. But I like to put a clause in there that says that my payments begin after installation of my sublessee, because they know I'm not going to live in there. They know I'm putting someone in there that I'm getting qualified for a loan that gets us all cashed out. So my payments begin after we install them up to 90 days. And if I don't install somebody within 90 days, then the agreement is void. And the only reason you would do that is because the terms aren't great. They have too high of a price. Maybe it's a little bit too high of a monthly. Maybe they want a little bit down on the lease option or something. The duration is too low. Otherwise, I would just go ahead and get the contract and start paying, because you're going to get a lease option buyer. Particularly, people in my group, they get to use my dispositions team. They get to use my dispositions manager, and we always, get a buyer for the house as long as the terms are good and the house is decent. And, averaging about 25 grand upfront down payment. So you call one of these for rent by owners, and you get an agreement to lease their property and an option to buy it during the term of the lease. Here comes 25 grand from one of our buyers right away. We sublease it to them, give them an option at a higher price, and we make the spreads all along the way. Those deals are not that hard to find, not that hard to do. They just are much easier to accomplish with a lot less anxiety when you have guidance. So you know what to do if you'd like to get guidance on it. So anyway, I've kept you a little bit too long here, but I want to reiterate, and I'll cover it next week, that if y'all want this addendum, I can share this with you, but I don't want to give you the whole contract, because if you get confused by it, it's not a good thing. I'd rather coach somebody through the different clauses of the actual contract. But this one's really easy to read. It just will help you ensure that you don't have any problems or mitigate potential problems from the buyer that you put in, and any misunderstanding on how the payment, the fee they give you for having that option is handled, meaning it's kept by you. It's a fee. It's a fee as consideration for getting the option. Yes, it is a down payment in the sense that if you exercise the option, we'll apply it that way. But in the absence of you exercising your option, it is a fee and it is not refundable. Are you with me? And you have that conversation, which we'll talk about next week when we talk about using lease with an option agreement to put our buyers in place. Okay. That's going to be it for today. If you have questions, comments, go ahead, drop them in. Did I miss any comments in here? I don't think I did. Go ahead and hit me. And for those of you, I've got a couple things to do this morning, so give me a minute to get you the addendum, and I'll shoot that over to you. And that will about cover it, folks. So y'all have a wonderful weekend. I always appreciate you coming out here on a Saturday. Much love. And I'm going to check out the Kinky Garcia fight tonight. King Garcia, Ryan Garcia, he's coming out tonight. Watch him on YouTube. That guy's got massive speed. I think he's fighting at like 135 pounds. So I'm going to check that out tonight. And we'll see how my boy does. All right. Adios, folks. We'll catch up with you on the flip side. Bye now.